fans, Valorant here, and welcome to a deck profile with Fluffles. Fluffles are a very nice deck. It is gaining support over the year, I should say, from new challenges all the way up to Dimension of Chaos, and we'll probably get further support in the future since it's an anime deck, and Sora has just come back in the anime. So be aware you may get another Frightfur for this deck or another Fluffle, maybe a light attribute monster since she's turning good at this point. So it could work with the Fluffle Wings being light. But essentially, this is a very fun deck. It's sort of competitive. It can be quite dangerous for people who don't know what they do or if they haven't set up good on turn 1. There are a lot of decks that can set up with like Infinity, Rafflesia, and 2 back row turn 1. That can be very nightmarish for this kind of deck. But when performances get hit, hopefully Fluffles will become a contender once more. But for now, this is a great fun deck. I really enjoy playing it. Its max output I've ever had it at is on turn 3 with 32,400 damage. Well, possibility of doing that. Obviously, his life points were not that high. But it's very, very good in that sense. And it's a little bit different to other Fluffle decks because it does not run Mouse. I don't like Mouse. It's essentially going to be dead against Solemn Strike, which is going to be quite common in the format. So I don't think it'd be worth running him for it. So first we have triple Fluffle Dog. Fluffle Dog is our Stratos. When it's normal special summoned from the hand, it can add a Fluffle or Edgent Sabers from your deck to your hand. So that's very good because it sets up all your plays. You can add Fluffle Bear to add to put a Toy Vendor in. Add your Fluffle Wings to go off with your Toy Vendor. Add Edgent Sabers if you're missing an Edgent and don't have a King of the Swamp. And yeah, essentially he just grabs most of the pieces of your deck. Unfortunately, you can't grab any other Edgents like Chain, but it's not that bad in that sense. And it's Earth attributes, so it works well with another card I will show you in this deck. So then we've got 3 Fluffle Bear. Fluffle Bear is our Toy Vendor grabber. By discarding it, you can set a Toy Vendor from your deck, which is very good. It has an alternative effect where you contribute it while it's on the field to add a polymerization from your graveyard to your hand. I've never used that effect, but I primarily use it for the Toy Vendor effect. It's very good in that sense because Toy Vendor is clutch in this deck and it can be a very high reward for a risky card like that. Then we have 1 Fluffle Owl. Fluffle Owl is a polymerization searcher when he's normal or special summoned, which is good if you get lucky on your Toy Vendor and special summon it onto the board after a Fluffle Dog's been normal summoned. And it has a second effect where you can pay 500 life points to fusion summon a Frightfur monster by using monsters from your, I believe it's from your hand or your field. So that is very good because it gives you an alternative polymerization, but you can't use both effects in the same turn, so it doesn't give you 100% what you need. I don't like to draw into this. I would rather search it out if I need to. So I only run 1 for that sense. Then we have 2 Fluffle Sheep. Originally this was at 3 because Fluffle Sheep was great back when Lavabo Chain was there, because if you had to go for a defensive stance, you could summon out your dog, special summon add a sheep, special summon a sheep, add the dog back to your hand, special summon Edgimp, and go from defense from there. But nowadays it's now lost a bit of favour just because it's not really needed. You've got more support in this deck, so you don't need max on sheep. Then we have 1 Fluffle Cat and 1 Fluffle Rabbit. These are basically my nice combo pieces to go in for my OTKs. Fluffle Rabbit, when it's used as a fusion material, adds a Fluffle monster from my graveyard to my hand except itself. And Fluffle Cat does the same, but with polymerization. This is the one I use the most though, because it allows me to go polymerization, then the Frightfur fusion, and set up a board with Sabertooth, Tiger, and Wolf, which is very, very good. Then we have 2 Fluffle Wings. Fluffle Wings is our engine essentially. You can banish it from the graveyard with another Fluffle monster to draw 1 card, then destroy the Toy Vendor to draw 1 more card, and then Toy Vendor's effect will activate to add a Fluffle monster or an Edge of Sabers from your deck to your hand. which is basically a filing for draws. So that is very, very fun to actually do. If your opponent is kind of wise and doesn't want you to draw, they may even MST your Toyvender, which means you don't lose, well, you don't lose something maybe more critical, although there's not much back row in this deck. In games 2 and 3, there'll probably more, so you lure it out that way as well. So that's fun. So yeah, that's the Fluffle side of things done. Then we have 2 Edged Sabers. Edged Sabers is needed in the deck. Although we run King of the Swamp, so we can do it Tiger, we cannot summon Frightfur Wolf without Edged Sabers because it has to have all its original materials. So Edged Sabers is required in this deck. Plus it allows me to top deck, which is going to be another important thing later on in this deck. So that is quite good in that sense, and also gives you a little bit more defense. So it's very nice. Then we have Triple Edged Chain. Edged Chain is again another important card because when it is sent from the hand or field to the graveyard, add 1 Frightfur card from your deck to your hand, which means you can add your Frightfur Fusion to your hand, or Frightfur Factory if you plan on playing that card. So that is brilliant because it's going to set up our Miracle Fusion plays. So it also has a second effect where you attack if you attack with this monster, you can add an Edged Chain from your deck to your hand. I've barely used that effect though, so yeah. Then we have Triple King of the Swamp. King of the Swamp is very, very good in this deck, mainly because it gives you Polymerization or a Fusion Substitute. Since Edged Saw is not a very good card, this substitutes as it, but I usually substitute it for Edged Sabers when I have Frightfur Tiger plays or Frightfur Sheep plays with Edged Chain. So that's very good, but you can't use it for a Frightfur Wolf play since it has to have all the same materials. And then finally for the monsters we have 1 Glow Bulb. Glow Bulb is mainly a tech right now because we're in the pendulum era, and Glow Bulb allows us to go into the Cheerio Beast with Fluffle Dog, so that's very good. You can easily mill it with Toyvender, so you won't minus from your top decking of a Glow Bulb, so that's good. So that's the monsters done. Then we have the spells, which is Triple Toyvender. Toyvender is again a very critical card in the deck. Once per turn, you can discard 1 card, draw 1 card, and reveal it. If it is a Fluffle monster, you can special summon a monster from your hand. It doesn't have to be the monster you reveal. So that is quite good with stuff like if you have Fluffle Dog and a top deck of Fluffle Owl, especially with Fluffle Owl, you got Polymerization from that. It also allows you to go into your Castell play, which is a critical card sometimes in this deck to get around stuff like Beals. So that's very good. Its second effect, which isn't, neither are actually once per turn for Toyvenders, they are just once per turn for the card. You can, when it's into the graveyard, it doesn't say it has to be from the field, so it can be like milled as it was in the Lavalval Chain period. You can add 1 Edged Sabers or Fluffle monster from your deck to your hand, which is very, very good because it adds like Fluffle Cat, Fluffle Dog. It can be very good in that sense. Then we have Triple Polymerization. Sorry for the alternative artwork and then just 1 normal one. I'm only using that because that's LOB, so I'm happy with that. I would like a third. But Polymerization is a very needed card in this deck. I don't like Dark Fusion because Dark Fusion isn't searchable, so it doesn't give me enough of a plus from it. It does protect him from being targeted, but that's about it. Most stuff in the game is not really targeting. Mainly like Ignister Prominence, that's very dangerous. Wavering Eyes, if we have pendulums, and stuff like that. So it's not really that much protection. Whereas Polymerization is just normal, but you can get it back with Fusion Reserve, you can add it with King of the Swamp, you can add it with Fluffle Owl. There's so many things you can do with Polymerization. Then we have 3 Frightfur Fusion. Now I'm considering maybe taking this down to 2 Frightfur Fusion and a Frightfur Factory, but I do like the amount of Frightfur Fusion players I got. I can also mill it. I can also discard it if I really don't need it in my hand. I've already got one of it, and I don't think I'm gonna last that long in the duel, or my opponent's not gonna last that long in the duel. I can use Toy Vendor to discard it. So there's a lot of things you can do with Frightfur Fusion. Basically, it banishes Fluffle monsters and Agent Chains, Agent monsters, as well as your King of Swamp from your field or graveyard to fusion summon a monster. Well, Frightfur Fusion monster. So that's very, very good. Very needed for the deck and allows you to OTK with Frightfur Wolf. Then we have 1 Raigeki and 2 Dark Holes. Dark Hole is to clear my board, my opponent's board, and my own board, and Raigeki is the same, but you can only use one of him. So it's 1 Raigeki, 2 Dark Hole in this sense. It allows for easier OTK plays. Then we have 2 Galaxy Cyclone. You can use Twin Twister if you're making this on a budget. So that is an option, as I say. Well, if I can just show it. My Twin Twisters. If I was not using Galaxy Cyclone in the deck, I would be using Twin Twister in the deck. Galaxy Cyclone can tag one set card on set spell trap on the field and destroy it. It doesn't have to be. It can flip up and still destroy it. So that's good in that sense. And during your main phase, you can banish it from your graveyard, except the turn of center of the graveyard, to tag on face-up spell and trap on the field and destroy it. Very good against pendulums because it can pop your opponent's pendulum scale. Maybe even lure out their Wavering Eyes, and then maybe leave their board a bit more open, so you don't need to pop as much. So that's good. And you can also pop your Toy Vendor. My voice is going now. You can pop your Toy Vendor and add a Fluffle Dog if you haven't got any plays at the moment. So that's a good way of starting your engine up once again. And then also can pop Lose One Turn and Skill Drain, which are very dangerous cards against this deck. And the final spell is Rank Up Magic, the 7th one. Now, there is a lot of drawing in this deck, mainly for the Fluffle Wings combo. However, you have a way of top decking with Agent Sabers. So if I do draw it in this weird circumstance where it's drawn from like Toy Vendor or I have in my opening hand, if I have an option for Agent Sabers, I can put it on top of my deck and then top deck it, allow me to use 7th one and bring out my over 100 number, which I'll get to in a bit. So that's very good. And also, with my deck getting thinned with Fluffle Wings, it's more likely to occur later on in the duel. So that's also a good thing as well. You can also discard if Toy Vendor if you're nowhere near Agent Sabers. And then finally, my free trap, which is Fusion Reserve. Fusion Reserve can reveal 1 fusion monster in your extra deck, and you can add 1 material from that monster. It has to be an exact material, so you can't add like a Fluffle monster if you have revealed Frightfur Tiger, because it didn't say any specific Fluffle monster. But you can also add Polymerization from your graveyard to your hand, which further cements Polymerization's use in this deck. So that's very good. It's like kind of like a Fusion Recovery, but in a slight reverse. So that's good. I really enjoy Fusion Reserve. Once your opponent knows you're going for playing Fluffles, this is going to be very good because you can set up with that turn 1 instead of going for any other plays or going for anything too adventurous. Then we're on to the extra deck. We have 3 Frightfur Tiger. Frightfur Tiger is a very, very dangerous monster. It requires an Agent Sabers and 1 or more Fluffle monsters, so you can send like 5 of them and with your Agent Sabers and get up to 6 pops because it gains destructions equal to the amount of monsters used for its fusion material, equal to, well, up to that amount. So usually at minimum you can get 2 pops on the field, possibly even pop your Toy Vendors to go further plus. So that's very good. Usually I go for the back row because I can get over monsters quite easily, but the back row is very challenging for this deck. It's going to be always a problem for this deck. It may also lure out Solemn's Strike, and if you have enough materials in your hand, you should be able to come back from one Solemn Strike. So that's fun. That's very good. Plus, it gives all Frightfur monsters 300 additional attack points for each Fluffle and Frightfur monster on the field. So on summon, it'll be 2200 instead of 19. If you have Fluffle Dog already, that's another 300. Maximum is going to be 1500 plus onto everything. If you come with that with Sabertooth, you could probably give 1900 onto a multiple attacking wolf, which is 39, going to be very, very dangerous. Frightfur Tiger is cemented, but you can only control one Frightfur Tiger, so it isn't always advised to destroy it unless you know you can take control of the board. Then we have 2 Frightfur Sabertooth. Frightfur Sabertooth requires a Frightfur fusion monster and one of our Fluffle or Edgimp monsters, not Edgimp Sabers as itself. It can be used with Edgimp Chain, which is very good because it can unlock your Miracle Fusion plays, so that's very good. When it is fusion summoned, you can target one Frightfur monster in your graveyard and special summon it. So most likely you summon Tiger, pop the back row so it's safe, fuse Tiger away to bring out Sabertooth, Sabertooth then reborns Tiger, and you've just gained 1000 attack on each of them, 24 to 34, that's 29, so that's very, very dangerous. It also has the third effect, which is very annoying for decks like Cosmo, is that when it's used with 3 or more fusion materials, it cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects. Very good. If you're top decking like Dark Hole, that could possibly help you if you've gone into a defensive stance. I think in this format it would be more needed to be summoned in defensive mode, just because, unless you're going for game, just because Cyber Dragon Affinity can only absorb attack position monsters, how can this get over it without nullifying its effects? And since neither of those effects the second effect doesn't activate, assuming that the first one's fine, it's going to be very hard for them to deal with. And yeah, it also screws over Cosmo because they can't really run over it or destroy it with Dark Destroyer. Then we have 2 Frightfur Sheep. Frightfur Sheep is a very, very good card. It's actually the highest value card in this deck, except from Galaxy Cyclone, but that's not a necessity. Frightfur Sheep has an Armedius effect, where when it battles a monster, your opponent can't activate cards or effects until the end of the damage step. Very good against Yang Zing and Cosmo. It requires Edgimp Chain and a Fluffle monster, so you need Edgimp Chain's maximum in this because not only does it allow you to go for your Miracle Fusion plays, it gives you Sheep very well as well. When it is destroyed by battle or card effect, it can reborn itself and then gain 800 attack points. You can only use that effect once per turn, so you can't use like multiple Sheep and keep crashing them. That'd be so broken. But Frightfur Sheep can be over stuff like Dark Destroyer if you have like Tigers on board, so that's very dangerous. Same for Sabertooth, also boosted up enough for it to get over Dark Destroyer, and they won't let that set off their plays. That's why it's high value, because they can kill Dark Destroyer. Then we have 2 Frightfur Wolf. Frightfur Wolf is the only non-anime Frightfur I think there is in the deck. Yeah, it's the only non-anime Frightfur, maybe the only non-anime Fluffle card in the whole deck. So that is really weird, but essentially Frightfur Wolf is one of the best. It requires an Edgimp Sabers and any amount of Fluffle monsters you want to provide. It has to be fusion with the correct fusion materials, so you can't use King of the Swamp, sad face, but it can attack equal to the amount of monsters used for its summon. Very, very broken. I think the maximum I have had on the attacks is 7, but that was very overkill. With 5 attacks, that's plus giving you, say you have a full board, that's probably going to be 3,900 attack times 5. That's a possibility to OTK in attack duel. If you combo with the whole field, you can OTK twice in attack duel. Very, very dangerous card this is. And it's mandatory. It's just mandatory at 2. Then we're on to Frightfur Leo. Frightfur Leo has a Volcasaurus effect. You're really not going to go into this much. Like once per 20 or 30 duels, before you go into your Frightfur Leo. It can be clutch when you do it, but that's about it. He has the same restrictions as well. It requires Edgimp Saw and a Fluffle monster. That's why King of the Swamp is in there, because it eradicates that once. And then finally for the Frightfurs, Frightfur Bear has a fusion reserve target, I should say. And it does have an effect to increase the attack points by equipping your opponent's monster that destroys by battle. well, gains about 1,000 attack points, but that's about it. It's not very good. You mainly use it for Fusion Reserve. So that's the Frightfur Fusion monsters done with. Then we have one Synchro, Naturia Beast, to screw over Pendulum decks, mainly Magician. Pepe can get around it. Magician are really going to struggle. And then finally we have Castel to balance back your opponent's monsters and difficult monsters that my Fluffles can't get over, most likely the ones that can't be destroyed by battle or card effect. And 101 C101. I could go for 107 and C107 for a big 4-5 beat stick, but I've always been a major fan of C101 because it's just one of the best Exceed monsters. Its only restriction is its level and how much is needed for it. C101 can absorb one special summon monster on the field. It doesn't have to be attack or defense. It can, when it's destroyed while it has an Exceed material and you have 101 in the graveyard, even if 101 is Z1 equipped, as long as it's going to the graveyard at the same time, it will be able to use its effect. It can reborn itself. You gain 2,800 life points. You can reuse its effects, I believe, to absorb a monster again. And yeah, it can't attack that turn, but it gives you a nice way of stalling and can be very dangerous. The moment when C101 absorbs Savage Dragon Infinity. So funny. And then 101 is basically a lesser version. So yeah, that's the extra deck. I have a few side cards I do suggest as possibilities, but this is not a full side, obviously. There is the Chimeratech sect for Cosmo, just to deal with them a little bit better, because they can be dangerous at times, but it's a decent meta matchup. I would suggest it mainly is the Fortress Dragon and 2 cores, possibly a 3rd core or a Dray to help with Castel plays would be quite good for this deck. But I also suggest Chimeratech Rampage Dragon because it has a similar effect to Frightfur Tiger. It just pops spells and trap cards. So that's good. And plus, if you're using Polymerization, you can easily bring this out. You can main deck it if you're not wanting to use a 7th one or Naturia Beast. So you have ways around it. Then there's Kaiju options. Kaijus are very good. I would suggest Gamciel Sea Turtle Kaiju since you can't get Kumungus out in this deck. So this is the weakest. Easily can crash with Frightfur Tiger into it if you only have Frightfur Tiger on the board. So you have a lot of possibilities. You can screw over Savage Dragon Infinity and Traptrix Rafflesia. So that's very good, and Naturia Beast too. And then we have the option for Imperial Iron Wall. Infernoid is a bad matchup for us because they can banish the Fluffle Wings before it does its combo. So that's problematic. So Imperial Iron Wall is very good for this side deck. Then there is Royal Decrees you can go for. This is to stop trap heavy decks. But it can also be used against the meta in the sense that it can nullify Solemn Notice for your turn because they're probably going to pop it next turn. So that's good. And then also options are Breakthrough Skills, since that if it's milled, it still gains its plus. Deck Devastation Virus to screw over monsters that are 1,500 or less for the next 3 turns. Requires a 2,000 or more attack point Dark Attribute monster as a tribute, which you can easily do in this deck. So yeah, it's quite good, but it doesn't screw over Pepe 100%. And then there's like Fairy Wind you can also go into. Destroy your own toy vendor while destroying their scales. Very good. You can also use Pendulum Storm, which is like a lesser version, but this also outs like lose 1 turn and skill drain decks. So that's also a very, very powerful card. There was one other side I can't remember at the moment. Shame. But yeah, that's essentially it for the deck. I do love this deck. It is very, very fun. Big one on top. So this is a very fun deck. I enjoy playing it. It's going to have problems with Savage Dragon Infinity and Traptrix Rafflesia and the Naturia Beast being quite rampant at the moment. But when they calm down, then this deck can come back and be a real rogue deck and completely screw over. It has won ARG tournaments and stuff like that. So this archetype definitely has potential. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this deck profile. If you did, please like, subscribe, and share it. If you enjoyed it, I want to see further content of this. If you liked that I was doing an IRL deck profile, because this is like the first one, I apologize for the glare on this. I can't do anything about it. I tried everything, but can't really do anything because it's too dark at the moment outside. So yeah, I apologize about that. But if you do enjoy me actually doing an IRL deck profile, please let me know in the comments below, because I will probably do that for 4-power Dracoslayer, since I'm only missing one Sorcerer and one Solemn Strike, because I've got my Infinity, got my Rafflesia, got my two Strikes, 2 Sorcerers, maybe able to get a 3rd Sorcerer tonight, so that would be so fun and awesome. So yeah, thank you for watching. Madarant, signing out.